Hey, we are live. That was quick, and I am breathless. Elizabeth and I both are breathless. Do you know I know. We just finished an hour-long discussion about Legend of Korra. Close that off. We're immediately starting in on the Doctor Who series premiere that just happened 2 days ago, 3 days ago, whatever it is.
2 days ago.
2 days ago?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, people already see you, but say hi, Elizabeth.
Hey there!
Hi, and I'm Mark. So, we're all going to talk about Doctor Who right now. The series premiere of the new Doctor was 2 days ago. Peter Capaldi. There's a lot to talk about, a lot of stuff that's going on discussion-wise on the different Doctor, what the story is about, and everything like that. The big thing is that this is the first full episode with Peter Capaldi as the new Doctor. A lot of chatter about this because he's such a different character from anybody else since the relaunch of Doctor Who. From Chris Rexton to David Tennant to Matt Smith, they've all had these certain personalities, but they've all been these young, energetic doctors. And now we've got a doctor who is obviously a little more older and grizzled, and that's caused a stir. Some people in the fandom saying he's too old to be the Doctor. We'll talk about that.
Is ridiculous. He's still super energetic. I mean, his eyebrows alone are super energetic, and it's not like he's the oldest Doctor ever.
That is
I know
true.
since the relaunch, whatever, but not ever.
I mean, technically, since the relaunch, he's the oldest. Technically, there have been older Doctors. The first Doctor was much older than Peter Capaldi. But we have a new generation of fans who only know this new one. And I'm not going to judge how people enjoy their fandoms.
I mean, if they went with a younger one, it would be kind of like a Benjamin Button thing or whatever, going backwards in time. And come on!
Even if they kept it the same age, I feel like they'd be telling the same story.
Yeah.
It's like at some point you need to mix things up. And I'm really glad that they chose somebody who's a little more mature to play the Doctor because it's time to mix up that story.
Well, I didn't even know there was such a crazy hubbub about the whole age thing. And so since you said that, I'm really curious when they wrote the script for the first episode. Was it like before or after they announced who?
You know, there was a headline. There was a headline I saw. I don't remember where it was at. I didn't get a chance to read it, but they talked to Stephen Moffat about why they chose this episode to start things off, and apparently they had
just won an Emmy a few minutes ago.
Huh?
Who just won an Emmy about an hour ago?
Oh, he just won an Emmy for Sherlock.
Yes.
Well done, sir. Well done, sir. Congratulations on that Emmy. So I am sure that there was some discussions. They apparently had a few options for their first episode, and they settled on this one. I really, really like the fact that they settled on this episode, and there are a couple of reasons for that, which I can go into in a minute. But I really think it was a good choice on their part. Overall, as a great way to introduce a Doctor who is so different from any of the Doctors in the relaunch era. And
the whole thing was about.
What?
That's what the whole episode was about. To me, knowing that fans were being all in about it, it's kind of like a psh, psh, see, he kicked butt.
Yes, he did. He did. Basically, and again, I think we have so much that we can talk about. I'm not sure if we need to do too much of a recap on it. We'll just kind of cover some of the high points and then kind of talk about the show. Basically, it started off with a Tyrannosaurus Rex in London in 18 whenever, or 17 whenever actually. It's probably 17 something, wasn't it?
I don't remember.
No, it's probably 18 because it's more Industrial Revolution, so 1800s.
Yeah.
I don't remember the time, but it's whatever time that Vastra and Strax and all of them are in because they show up as well. So there's the Tyrannosaurus Rex running around. How did he get there? We don't know. Well, we find out because he was actually choking on something and he spit it up and it was a TARDIS. He had swallowed the TARDIS. The TARDIS had time traveled to London and accidentally sucked along the Tyrannosaurus Rex.
Oops.
You know, it happens. First thing I want to say is, I didn't think Tyrannosaurus Rexes were that big. I mean, this thing was bigger than Big Ben.
It was big.
Yeah, I mean, Big Ben's big. But Tyrannosaurus Rexes aren't that big, are they?
Do I need to look it up?
I think you might need to look it up. I want a frame of reference on how big a Tyrannosaurus Rex is and how big Big Ben is. Because this Tyrannosaurus Rex was huge. This was like a prehistoric Tyrannosaurus Rex or something. Well, obviously, you know what I mean. A Tyrannosaurus Rex, it was whatever. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? This is a huge dinosaur in the grand scheme of things. Blah blah blah. Why is that not working? Come here. There we go. So he is there, and basically Vastra, Strax, and Ginny go down there, and the Doctor comes out, and at first they're confused. They didn't realize that the Doctor had regenerated. And then Clara comes out, and she's obviously disheveled, and she's like really frustrated because he's been out of control since regeneration. And you know how doctors get. Once they regenerate, there's this real confusion that goes on. They don't really know who they are yet. They're not really kind of grounded in what's going on around them. And she's been trying to deal with this while they've been traveling through time with dinosaurs chasing them and everything like that. So they finally get everybody together, Vastra and Strax and everybody. They get the Doctor, the Peter Capaldi Doctor, back to their place. They try to convince him to sleep. And this is this great moment when Clara says something like, how do we change him back? And everybody just kind of stops for a minute. And it's basically what I've read online, and I kind of agree with this. It's almost as if Clara was speaking like the fans.
Mm-hmm.
This fan was like, how do we change him back? We want him back. We want him back. And I think that always happens with the regeneration. I mean, it happened with Eccleston. Happened to a bigger extent with Tennant. Like when Tennant left, there was a lot of people like, no. And now also it's happening with Matt Smith because Matt Smith really owned that part as well as Tennant did. So it was kind of like Jenny had that moment where she is the fan.
Cora.
Clara.
That's it. Cora? You said
sorry, guys. I have so many names running through my head right now. Clara was the fan. Anyway.
And no, T-Rexes are definitely not that big.
Okay, so how tall is a T-Rex?
Well, they're like they do height up to the hips because they're usually kind of bent over, so they're like 40 feet long and like 15 feet to the hip.
15 feet to the hip, yeah. So I mean, no, you are not going to be taller than Big Ben and can be seen all the way across London as a T-Rex. This guy was seen all the way across London. So BBC, bad. We know better than that.
Maybe it was from another planet.
Maybe it was a T-Rex from another planet. The chances of that evolutionary accident happening are pretty slim, but I guess there are billions of possibilities.
Who knows?
Who knows? Who knows? I know that Doctor Who, the show, has a love affair with dinosaurs, so I know. So there's this really interesting moment where once that happens, Vastra tells Ginny to go get her veil, and she wants to talk to Clara in her study. And they go in there and they have this conversation, and it's this great, great conversation where Vastra's got the veil, and Clara even says, "Why are you wearing the veil?" And she just kind of ignores her. And she's really trying to dig into Clara and figure out, you know, what motivates her. And she really rips into her. She starts accusing her of flirting, and she's like, "This is not your boyfriend. He's not going to flirt with you. You don't need to flirt with him," and just really kind of jabbing at her until finally Clara just blows up. And she just really rips into him and tells Vastra, you know, how she really feels about the Doctor and everything. And it was this really cool moment that really, if Clara is speaking as the fan, that's what the fandoms really believe. That's who they really love. They love the Doctor as a character. It's not the person that's playing the character. It's not the face they see. It's the character of the Doctor. And that's kind of what happened with Clara. And it's this really great moment to where she then looks at Vastra and she's not having a veil on anymore. And she asks, you know, where'd your veil go? And he's like, it was never there in the first place. You just choose to saw it. You know, there's this thing where, like, you're putting this barrier between you and your truth and everything like that. I thought it was really handled well. I really liked that moment with them. I don't know. What do you think?
It was very cool. Yeah. It's like, just get over it. This is the Doctor. You know, if you stop trying to see the old Doctor, you'll see this is the Doctor.
Yes. And that was basically what most of the episode was all about. And there were some moments where, I mean, the difference between the Peter Capaldi Doctor and the Matt Smith, the David Tennant, and even the David Eccleston, Chris Eccleston, sorry, became very, very clear. Basically what happened was this Tyrannosaurus Rex spontaneously combusted in the middle of everything. He was locked into this little area right around Big Ben, and in the middle of the night he just combusts. Now, earlier we've seen this weird android dude harvest the guy's eyeballs. We don't see it. It's implied.
Yeah.
But it's really interesting because we start to figure out who this new doctor is. He runs down there because he feels guilty for bringing this Tyrannosaurus back, and he speaks dinosaur. In case you forgot, the doctor speaks dinosaur. And he can hear this Tyrannosaurus Rex, calling out at night. He's lonely, or she's lonely, actually, whichever it is. And he goes out there to say, I'm going to save you, I'm going to get you home, and the dinosaur combusts. Oh, sad. And his first reaction is to run down there. And this is where we get the first sense of who this doctor is. He's like a detective. I really like that because the first thing he said was, we're asking the wrong questions. And they're like, okay, the question is, why is there a dinosaur in London? He's like, no, you're an idiot. That's not the question. And he's actually kind of rude. He's actually going back to some old school Doctor Who and being rude with everybody, calling him pudding brains and things like that. It's kind of funny.
It's like, how did this happen? Why did this happen? Wrong question, wrong question.
Yes. The real question was, have there been any other murders like this? And you're like, a dinosaur popping up in flame? Murders? What? But there have been. There's been these cases of people spontaneously combusting recently. And that kind of leads him into this thing. But it's interesting because the doctor, he just takes off. He just leaves them. He just jumps off the bridge into the river, goes off and does his thing to investigate on his own. He doesn't even think about Clara or Vastra or anybody. He just goes and does his own thing. And that's kind of his modus operandi for a lot of this show. It felt like. Am I crazy on that?
Well, there was that, but, I mean, I don't remember David Tennant's first episode, but I do remember Matt Smith's, where he was, solving whatever the episode was, but he was also still trying to figure out who he was. And so, when he had to eat everything in Amy Pond's kitchen and figure out what he liked to wear and all that kind of stuff. So it was kind of weird. He was trying to solve this thing, but also figure out who he was. I mean, you see this moment where he's in an alleyway with the homeless guy, and he's trying to figure stuff out. What do I like to wear? I don't know. I'm cold. Wait, no. It was. So yeah, it's kind of all over the place kind of thing, but it's kind of fun.
It was kind of fun too. I love that comment when he was in the alleyway where he realized he's Scottish. There's that moment where he realizes he's Scottish, and he basically says, that means I can complain about things. A lot of things. And it was just this moment where he's like, oh, I can complain. This is going to be good. So I really liked that moment. There were some really great moments where he was talking about everything. And he talked about it himself. He talked about why was he old. He used to be young, but he was asking himself, why was he old? Because one of the things that didn't used to be canon, that became canon in the relaunch, is the Doctor had some control over his regeneration, on who he ended up looking like and the person he ended up being. And that's one thing he kept asking. He asked a few times, have you seen this face before? Because he's trying to figure out why he was old. It's very interesting. And actually, Peter Capaldi was in another episode of Doctor Who. I don't remember what the fires of Vesuvius.
Pompeii,
yeah, that's the one it was. He was in that episode with Karen Gillan. They got Karen Gillan from that episode, and Peter Capaldi was in that episode again. So whether that's going to come back in some way, who knows? But there is that history. But he kept asking, have you seen my face before? Anyways, all this is going on, and it all leads to this moment where Claire's trying to find her place now because she's stuck in London in the 18 whatever, and she's trying to find her place, and Vastra and Strax and everybody are kind of taking her in, and she's trying to settle in. But she still believes that the Doctor is going to be there for her, and Vastra even brings that up, and she's like, what makes you think that? And she's like, because I'm talking to you. I know who you are. You believe the Doctor will be here. It's kind of a cool thing, and sure enough, she found an article in the paper that had this big headline that said Impossible Girl, which is what the Doctor has always called Clara, the Impossible Girl. So she knew that there was something there, and she figured out a place to meet the Doctor. And she goes there. It's a restaurant. Sure enough, she meets the Doctor. They're there. And the interesting part is they realize that neither one of them put the ad in. Clara thought the Doctor put the ad in. The Doctor thought Clara put the ad in. Neither one of them put the ad in. So they have no idea who put the ad in the paper leading them to this restaurant. They get really frustrated, but they decide that it's time to leave because they look around and nobody is actually eating. They're all just making the motions of eating. And they
It's
decided they should
creepy.
leave. What's up?
I said it's creepy.
It was creepy. Yeah, they were all just making the noise of like silverware hitting the plates. This thing. It was this creepy kind of moment and everything. So they get up to leave. And as soon as they get up, all of the other people stand up and start moving towards them. And they're like,
Well,
okay, we'll sit back down.
you forgot a very important part. They weren't just not eating; they also weren't breathing.
You're right. They weren't breathing. Very important part. Very important. They weren't breathing. You're right. So they sat down and like, okay, we're kind of stuck here. This is not good. At that point, a waiter comes over and is there to take their order, but instead starts like listing body parts. And that's when the doctor realizes, oh, we're the menu.
Yeah.
And right about then, they get locked in their chairs, and the chairs start sliding down into this underground little section. And once they get down there, they realize that that android we had seen earlier that was harvesting the eyes is there recharging. He's like not working right now. So they're able to get out. There's this really interesting moment where in order to get loose, they need their sonic screwdriver. So the doctor's like, okay, if you let this slip, we're screwed. Don't do it. He's telling Clara this. He's like, I know, I know. So basically, he's able to kind of scoot it out so that she can try to reach it with her feet, and she's really struggling to get it back there. And there's this little comment he makes, and he's like, something along the lines of, "Times like this, I really miss Amy." And it was just kind of funny because Amy was always like able to pickpocket things and everything like that. It was just really funny. She's finally able to kick it up into him, and he's able to get it, and they get free, and they start figuring it out. And this was the really interesting part for me, is because while they're trying to figure it out, the android starts waking up, and they're trying to figure out where to go, and they finally find a place to go as the android's waking up. The doctor's out first, but this door shuts between him and Clara. And Claire's like, okay, get me out of here. So he runs back and he starts to sonic the door, but it just comes up a little and he stops. And he says, you're too late. There's no point in catching both of us. And he takes off. What did you think about that?
I felt so bad for her. I was like, he left her behind, and this android starts walking around the room, and so she stands really still, but that doesn't quite do it. So she remembers up in the restaurant when they realize they're not breathing, and he asks her, "How long can you hold your breath?" And so she holds her breath. And it gets really tense. Like the android's kind of checking her out, and finally starts to move. I mean, like there's tear running down her eye, and she's freaking out, and she's stressing, and I'm pretty sure I held my breath.
Yeah, I think so, because it was intense, and I felt so bad for her when he left her. The doctor left her.
I know.
I mean, when has that happened in the modern era of Doctor Who? I'm sure it has,
but she finally had to breathe, and so the android catches her, brings her over, is like saying, "I'm gonna take your body part," or "Where's the other one?" That's what he asked. "Where's the other one?" or "Where are the others?" Yeah. And she wouldn't tell him, and she's like, "I'm gonna burn you." He's like, "No, you're not gonna burn me because you need my body parts, or I can handle the torture, or whatever, and you need me alive." And she's like doing a great job negotiating with this android thing, and at the end she's like, "You know what? I'm not worried." And she's like, "Because I know he's got my back." And then all of a sudden he grabs her hand. I was like, "Yay, he's there!"
Yes, it was that scene when Clara was like faced with the android who was threatening her with torture and everything to get information out of her. And she just constantly kept saying, "Nope, you're not going to do that. I'm not going to tell you anything." And she even said at one point, "Oh, if you're trying to scare me, I'm already terrified right now. You can't scare me any worse." But, and she started...
That doesn't change the fact.
Doesn't change the fact. And then that really was this great moment where she's like, because if I know one thing, someone's got my back. And she like sticks her hand back just hoping that he's going to be there because he's always been there before. And sure enough, he grabs her hand. I was like, oh! Yay, Doctor! But anyway, that scene with Clara, in my opinion, was the best moment for that character since she was the Dalek in the very first time we ever saw her as the Impossible Girl. That she was spectacular as the Dalek when we first saw Claire in the very before she even became the companion. That was her strongest character, and this episode was the first time we've really seen Clara come into her own as a companion, as a character, and I was so happy to see that. So happy to see that.
Yeah, and she needed that. I mean, that had to happen so that she like trusted that, this doctor, it doesn't look like Matt Smith. This doctor has her back.
Yeah, it was great. It was great. So we saw a couple of things. We saw Clara be the strong character we've always known she was, but have never really seen. Maybe that was because of the kind of doctor that Matt Smith was. But we also saw that the doctor is still the doctor. He's going to be there. He's going to be there for Clara and have her back and everything. It was a really good moment. Really well done. Kind of gross that he was wearing like a skin face, but what are you going to do?
Well, no grosser than a skin balloon, which we see.
That is true. So basically, these androids have been harvesting body parts for centuries. They were in a time machine that crashed in the prehistoric times, and they've been kind of harvesting parts for centuries until they can get enough to repair where they can get to the point where they can go home. And yeah, the doctor makes a comment. He's like, "You've changed your parts so many times. There's nothing of you left. You're not the same person anymore. If you change all the parts, you're the same person."
That was so cool, because then he picks up a platter and says, "Look, do you recognize this?" And of course, it's shiny on both sides, and so you see the doctor's face, and basically he's saying the same thing about himself. It's like, "Am I still the doctor, even though I don't look like the doctor?" And he's making, asking the same thing of the android.
It was really cool. It was a really great moment, and also, so getting to that point, the android, because Vastra and Straxer may come down, and they're able to come down. There's this huge fight trying to get them free and everything, and the head android says, "I'm going to make it to paradise. I'm going to make it to paradise." And the doctor's like,
"To the promised land."
Promised land, yeah. He's like, "There's no promised land. What are you talking?" Anyways, the guy says, "We have an escape capsule that's viable." And he's like, What do you have that's viable?" Well, he kind of goes off, and it turns out that the restaurant is actually attached to this huge skin balloon.
Ew.
Kind of gross.
Skin balloon.
Skin balloon fills up, and the roof opens up on the building, and it just floats off and away. But the doctor's with him. He thought he got away, but the doctor was there. And man, this doctor is menacing. He's like making a couple of drinks, and the android's like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "I thought I'd make some drinks. Basically, I'm afraid I might have to kill you, so I thought we should at least have some drinks." It's like, wow, okay. He's just going to do this. He's just kind of a badass like that. And there's another cool line while they're talking about this, where the doctor tries to tell him to commit suicide or something like that, and the android says that suicide is against my primary programming, and the doctor said, "Well, murder is against mine." Later on, the doctor says one of us is lying, and it's like, oh, so is the doctor, is he capable of murdering or killing this person, or is this person capable of suicide? Basically, the android ends up jumping, falling.
We don't know.
We don't know. Is dead, but we don't know how it happened. We don't know whether he did it himself or whether the doctor pushed him. We don't know.
It's kind of gross.
What?
He was kind of dark and gross. He ended up like impaled on top of, wasn't Big Ben, was it, or was it?
Big Ben, no, it was I don't know.
Just some pointy skyscraper building.
It was a significant building, but not. Sorry if you're in England watching this. I don't know my architecture of London that well, but I know.
I just don't remember it.
Yeah. So.
And really, is he that smart of an android that he thinks like a hot air skin balloon is going to get him to the promised land? I mean, it's not a spaceship. It's a hot air balloon made out of skin.
You know what? When you have that kind of belief, rational thought doesn't always get into it.
Mm.
So, and again, this android has been around for hundreds of years. He's not even the same creature anymore. He doesn't really. There's nothing.
Yeah.
There's nothing about the original that's there anymore. Who knows what's going on with that shell? I don't know. But through it all, we finally come back, and the Doctor and Clara get back together, and he does come back to get her. She's convinced that she has to stay there, but the Doctor does show up. He gets her. They go traveling on, and the Doctor just straight up asks her. He says, can you come with me? And she's like, I don't think I can. I don't think I know who you are. And he drops her in, well, what he thought was her hometown. It actually turned out, was it Wales or something like that?
Something like that, yeah.
She like goes outside, or actually she's about to go outside. And it was really interesting when she said, "I don't think I know who you are anymore." The Doctor started like harassing her about things, saying, "I'm not going to be your boyfriend." And it's kind of like he always was with Matt Smith. He was always her boyfriend, and he said, "I'm not your boyfriend." And her phone started ringing, and he made this comment. He said, "You might want to answer that. I'm not your boyfriend." And it was really interesting because when she answered it, it was actually Matt Smith, which was cool. I was not expecting to see the Matt Smith Doctor in this.
I thought if we did, it would be in the beginning, not the end.
Yeah. Maybe there would be some kind of transition into this.
Mm-hmm.
But it was so much more effective at the end. I thought it was really... Basically, he was on Trenzalore right before he was about to die, and they even showed this flashback to the scene. There's a scene where Clara on Trenzalore comes up to the TARDIS, and the receiver is just hanging out of its box, and she actually hangs it back up. He was actually making a phone call from the TARDIS to Clara, and he's like, "Hey, it's me," and it was just this great moment where they could really kind of say goodbye. And Matt Smith's Doctor, like, asked her, he's like, "Please, it's me, help me, because I need your help," kind of thing. And, Peter Capaldi's kind of watching, and he's like, "Is that your boyfriend," kind of thing. And basically he's like, they asked her the same question, "Is that the Doctor? Are you with the Doctor?" And she's like, "Yes," so she can answer them both at the same time. It was really cool the way that scene was framed and shot. I really, really enjoyed that.
Yes.
But basically, Matt Smith said, "Hey, help me." And Peter Capaldi, she finally hung up with him. And it was a really sweet moment. I really love that moment with her on the phone with Matt Smith, because you could tell that she knew that voice right then. I just really liked the way it was done. I thought it was really well done.
Mm-hmm. It made me happy.
Yeah. And Peter Capaldi basically said, "So, what do you think?" And she agrees to go off with him again. And it was kind of like that's what she needed. And she was kind of comfortable with him at that point. I don't think the Doctor's comfortable with her yet, but I think that she's comfortable with herself and with him, finally. So, it was a good ending. Really.
Yes. Fun. So now we have... There wasn't just all happy closure in this episode. Left a lot of questions.
Yes, what are the questions?
Number one, who placed the ad?
It's the biggest one I have. Who placed the ad? Because he even brought it up when Peter Capaldi, Doctor, was trying to convince her to stay with him before she said no. He even said, who put the ad in there? You remember somebody gave you that number? How'd you first get in touch with me? There was a lady at the shop. What lady at the shop? Somebody wants us together. Don't you want to know who it is? Well, yeah, I do.
Number two, is it the woman in Paradise? And where is Paradise?
Yes, and there was something I saw on Twitter, and I don't remember what it was, but there was an episode with Amy Pond where she was in the exact same location.
Oh, that was, I remember that one. Was that when she was about to have the... No, she wasn't when she was having the baby, was it? It was,
I don't think so. I think it was when she got left behind and got old. I don't remember.
Oh, I can picture it, yeah. Oh, what were they doing?
The exact same place. And that was the Promised Land. But when did... Amy Pond has been there. Where is the Promised Land? What's going on?
Yeah, and we know about the Promised Land because the android shows up there. I guess we should talk about that part.
Yes, the android at the very end is kind of like a button after the credits. The android shows up, and there's a woman there who's like, "Welcome, you made it. You're finally here. I hope my friend didn't..."
No, my boyfriend.
Yes.
Another mention of the boyfriend.
Yes. Uh, I'm wondering. I'm trying to get in my brain real quick. Um, what did the TARDIS look like? Do you remember the episode where the TARDIS was a person?
Yeah, I
Not the
don't
same
think
person.
that was her.
Okay,
No.
that would have been a little too weird.
Yeah. Yeah.
And again, we have seen the Promised Land before. I don't know where it is, but we have been there before in the show. So anybody watching this, if you know where the Promised Land is from when Amy Pond went there, please let me know because I cannot remember. Um, but yeah, I don't know where that is or who that is. I have a feeling that's going to play a pretty big part in this series.
Yes. Yes, definitely.
Yeah, don't know what part, but it'll be a part. I don't know. What do you think of the show overall for a series premiere with the new Doctor? What do you think?
I loved it. I was very happy with it. And I didn't, again, I'm not on the web as much as you, so I didn't know about all the like, oh, he's too old. I mean, blah. Of course, I had my like, ooh, it should be this person. Ooh, it should be this person before the season started. But uh, yeah, I really liked it. I liked him. He was fun. It was a fun like doctor figuring out himself and the companion and everything. So it was good. It was fun. I liked it, and I'm curious about who placed the ad.
I'm really curious about who placed the ad. I mean that's been something that's been going on for the entire string of Clara being the companion here. So we need to get some closure out of that.
Hmm.
I don't know. I really enjoyed it as well. Um, it's such a different take on the Doctor, and I am really really glad because I think that we needed to have a little bit of fresh life thrown in there. Not
Yeah.
no, I love Matt Smith's Doctor. I never thought I could get over David Tennant's Doctor. He was spectacular. The relationship between him and Rose, loved it, fabulous. Cried a bunch.
Yeah.
Matt Smith was amazing. Matt Smith and Amy Pond doesn't get any better than that. He really doesn't. Clara and Matt never had the chemistry that he had with Amy Pond. Never had the
Mm-mm.
same chemistry. Um, but this one, it felt so different, and there was automatically more chemistry between Peter Capaldi and Jenna Coleman than there was before with Matt Smith. So I'm really excited about how that dynamic's going to change. I think it was a great change to the story, and I'm really excited to see where they take this kind of new turn with things. I'm ready. I'm ready.
Yeah, I agree. No, I think the best Matt Smith Jenna Cole interaction was when she was in the TARDIS. I mean, not the TARDIS, the Dalek.
Dog, yeah, when she was a dog, that was the absolute best
So
one.
they weren't even like in the same room, and that was the best one.
Yep, absolutely. Everything else was just wasn't quite right. It wasn't there.
Yeah.
I mean, heck, there were fandoms developed just off of that episode about the girl in red, like Karen Hallion, who does a ton of geek themed T-shirts. After that episode, she made a T-shirt based on that character before Jenna Coleman even became a companion. Before we even knew she was going to be a companion, people had these fandoms about this character because she was so strong and that chemistry between her and Matt Smith was so perfect. It was great. And then whenever she became a full-fledged companion, man,
Meh.
it didn't do much. I was actually really disappointed with the way they scripted Jenna Coleman as the companion Clara through most of her run on here. Honestly, I really think that they weakened her a lot. It was really frustrating.
They just she was so different when she was out of the Dalek. I mean, yeah, it's hard to follow Amy Pond because who doesn't love Amy Pond?
Right.
But I mean, she did such a great job in that first one. And I was like, oh, if we get this character, it's going to be great. And it wasn't that character.
You're right. It was a different character. It could have been the same character, but it wasn't. She was never as strong as she was when she was in the Dalek. She was always weaker than the Doctor. When she was in the Dalek, she was the Doctor's equal.
Yeah.
She was the companion. She was never the Doctor's equal, and it never worked. Never worked. Not that I didn't enjoy her. I still think Jenna Coleman's great, and I like Clara, but she's never been as good as she was when she was the Dalek.
I
What's the
think
name
it, I think they just had to. Yeah, I don't know that anyone could follow Amy Pond and Matt Smith.
that really is tough. I mean, that's
They pretty much had to get a new doctor.
yeah. You pretty much have to at that point. And I think that Matt Smith had always planned on leaving right around then. Um, but yeah, it coming back from that. You really can't. You're right. You're right. They had to get a new doctor because no one would ever be able to meet that chemistry between Amy Pond and the Doctor. Never happened.
Nope.
So it was good. It was a needed change. It's always hard to convince the fandom that it's what needs to happen, but it really did. It needed to happen.
Yep.
And I really like the difference of Peter Capaldi. I'm really excited to see where he takes this thing. I love the fact that he's Scottish and grumpy. I just love that. I think that's great. I think it's going to be a really, really good time.
I'm curious, like, how much of the quirkiness will kind of level out. Like, I don't know how much of that quirkiness was just, him still trying to figure himself out, or if that's like how weird and quirky he's gonna stay.
We watched the after show for a little bit, where they had like Will Wheaton and Chris Hardwick and everybody talking about the show and everything. And Will Wheaton had a really good point. It's like every time there's been a regeneration in this relaunch, there's been this moment to where the new Doctor always has a little bit of the old Doctor in him until they kind of weed it all out. There's always this certain level where when Matt Smith started, there were some David Tennant mannerisms in Matt Smith's Doctor until he became himself. And I feel like maybe that's what's going on here. Like Peter Capaldi is playing Matt Smith's Doctor just a little bit. And I think that that's going to hopefully fade out over time. I don't think we're going to see a lot of quirky in this guy.
Yeah.
I could be wrong. Who knows? I'm not the writer. Oh, and the first show, or the first episode that Clara Oswin, not Oswald, Clara Oswin was in, was Asylum of the Daleks.
Gotcha. Was that is that when she was a nanny?
No.
Was that when she was in the Dalek?
No, that's when she was the Dalek, yeah.
Okay.
The Dalek, that one.
I didn't know if she had a name yet, or...
No, it was Clara Oswin. They actually
that's right. She did. Yeah.
Yeah, they called her Oswin. Okay. Clara Oswald's first appearance was in the Bells of St. John. Or actually, second appearance was the Bells of St. John. That's when the Doctor showed up, and he was like, this was right after Amy Pond had left because of the Weeping Angels, and he had gone into seclusion. The Bells of St. John, somebody had said something about a pond, and he came out, and that's when he saw Clara for the first time. And at the end of that is when he realized that it was the same person who was in the Asylum of the Daleks, and that's when he started calling her the Impossible Girl. Because when she died, she had that moment, he was like, remember me and run, or something like that. It was this great line, and the Doctor was like, what? Yeah. And maybe that was the problem between the Matt Smith and Clara character, because maybe he never really looked at her as a friend or as a person. He looked at her as a puzzle.
Yeah, I can almost see it being too complex. Like, he knew her on so many different levels, it was just like, I don't know, there's too much going on.
Yeah, that would make sense. Whatever it was, it never quite worked like Asylum of the Daleks. I want one of those T-shirts with Clara Oswin, because she was one of my favorite characters in Doctor Who. I mean, and she was in one freaking episode. It was such a great episode. So, a little disappointed, but I really hope that the Peter Capaldi Clara kind of turns it on. I don't know if there's been any talk about when she's leaving, when Jenna Coleman's going to be leaving. I heard somebody say something about the next companion, but I haven't heard that Clara is leaving anytime soon. Have you heard anything about that?
No, but you always hear things before I do, so that doesn't mean anything.
That's true. I shouldn't ask those questions. Sorry.
Yeah. Every once in a while, I get really excited when I know something you don't, but no.
I know. And sometimes you have to wait. And you're like, no, don't tell you yet, because I want to tell you later. Yeah, I don't know. There was something, blah, blah, blah. Oh, there was a leak from the set that shows Clara's gravestone.
That could be anything, though.
Could be anything, but this might be her last series. Who knows? We'll see. The thing about Doctor Who is those casts change all the time, so who knows what's going to happen. And the show's still great. So
yes.
So I don't know. What do you think? Anything else about Doctor Who?
I'm excited. Ready for Saturday.
I know. It's so exciting.
Except, oh, yeah. Man, this Saturday it's a night game for UT and Doctor Who, which of course means we're gonna have a games night, because, duh. There's always a games night whenever there's something on TV.
Yep. Well, there's either something on TV that we need or want to watch, or there's a University of Texas night football game because
Hmm.
they're both Longhorns. Okay.
Or you have to wake up super early to shoot Heroes of Awesome the next morning.
Or you have to wake up super early to shoot Heroes of Awesome, which the latest episode just came out, Night of the Owlbear. Watch it now.
Awesome.
Yeah. Well, if we've got nothing else, I think we're gonna let this one roll.
All
Anything
right.
else? All right.
No.
Call this one. If anybody, the big question for all you guys watching is if you know the episode where Amy Pond was in Paradise or the Promised Land, whatever you want to call it. If you know what episode that was, please let us know in the comments because I really need to know what that was. It's trying to know.
Yeah. I can picture it. I just can't put it in context of an episode.
When we dial off, I'm gonna actually find that because I should find it right now. I should have found that in advance because that would be like planning and I wonder if I can do that real quick.
You know what I heard is while you're doing that, it's totally unrelated, but I'm super excited about it. Keep typing. So we're going to go see John Hodgman on September 12th at Paramount. I'm so excited. But the super exciting part I just heard as I was listening to his podcast on the way down here where I'm at, because I'm obviously in a hotel. Yeah, he's promised like the Austinites that have been like begging to get him to Austin, that he's going to like hang out and talk to everyone in the lobby afterwards.
Oh, so we're gonna be hanging out afterwards, huh?
Yes.
All right, cool. So the Nerdist has a big write-up about this. Let me see if it has something. It's got the denouement section about the denouement. I just love that word, denouement. I don't speak a lot of French. So Michelle Gomez, who is a woman, was called the gatekeeper to the nether sphere. La 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 la. She calls the Doctor her boyfriend. Could it be River? I doubt that it's River. Don't know. They don't say anything about Amy Pond being there. But I saw that on Tumblr. Unless somebody got really creative with Photoshop, which is possible. I have been fooled every once in a while. So unless that happens. So I don't know. We'll figure this out. It's a mystery. They always have these mysteries. So we'll figure it out. That's all we're going to talk about right now. We're going to let everybody go. Thanks for watching, you guys. Leave me comments down there, especially if you know if Amy Pond was ever in the Promised Land.
And join us tomorrow night when we talk about everything else.
Yes, because there's been so much going on this week. We had to split tonight up. Tomorrow we're going to talk about the season finale of The Last Ship, the season... No. Season finale of True Blood, series finale of True Blood, The Strain, Face Off, 2 Face Offs maybe.
And season finale of Last Ship, which is crazy.
Season finale, Last Ship, guys, teaser for tomorrow. Last Ship is turned into a really good show.
Things are not what they seem.
No, and you know what? Teaser as well.
The Strain got crazy.
Yeah. This was, and again, it was just the end. The rest of the episode was like, but the end. No.
Can we say Vampire Special Ops?
Tune in tomorrow when we talk more about The Strain and everything else. Elizabeth, say goodnight.
Good night.
Bye, everybody.